really hurt and made this team look silly at times offensively, because we're in a day and an age when there aren't defenses out there that just shut people down. It's just not possible. There's just too many athletes on the offensive side and too much space and too many playmakers and too much playmaking ability where the skill is just too high. But I know Tommy Armstrong got hurt, but they just annihilated Nebraska. They just shut them down, and Nebraska scores points. Nobody, even the Clemson game, it was 31-0, but that was not a 31-0 type of defensive showing. Penn State scored on, once they got it rolling about game 3 or game 4, they scored a ton of points on everybody, and you got to take out the block punt and the block field goal that got returned for 6 points, and Penn State didn't really hurt them defensively either. This team played extremely well last year, played a great game against Michigan and holding them down, even though they got behind early. And, who knows, they might be even better. And, of course, what they did to Baker Mayfield, 2 Heisman finalists going to New York, and they shut them down to 3 touchdowns and 1 on the kick return there. So that wasn't even a defensive touchdown.
Which should not have even been a touchdown.
That's right. It shouldn't have been a touchdown.
Yeah,
that's right.
He dropped it before the goal line.
If you give them that, that's not a defensive allowed touchdown. So only 2 against the Sooners, who score a zillion points. Man, it was a great defensive effort that I think gets lost because of the disappointment of the way the entire season finished. But it was generally a dominant defense and arguably the best defense in the country last year, and it could be better this year.
Yep, and and we kind of talked about it a few months ago, talking about the defensive line and how even last year, when you look at the stats, nothing really jumps out at you about the defensive line. But what you really got to pay attention to is when you were watching the game to see how they are taking up these blockers, how they are disrupting the quarterback's rhythm. And it may not always be a sack or a tackle for loss, but that defensive line last year, like you said, was just dominant and created a lot of havoc and forced teams to kind of get out of their comfort zones. And like I said, that they faced a lot of high caliber offenses last year, and the defensive line did a great job of opening up the linebackers to roam freely, allowing the corners to only have to guard their guys for a short period of time because that defensive line was getting back there so quick, making the quarterback do, little 2 to 3 step drops and then getting the ball off. So it may not look like, the line was dominant. They didn't have, 40, 50 sacks or anything crazy, but when you're watching the game, when you're watching the film, the defensive line just created a lot of problems for teams. And this year, with everyone coming back, I mean, they did not lose one person from that defensive line last year. It's going to be a blast to watch and just see what they can do. And, another year under Larry Johnson, who's one of the best coaches around. And it's going to be fun to watch. And we'll see what the defensive line does. And, watch for those glimpses for those young freshmen like the Coopers and the Youngs and the Barrows and all them to kind of look forward to for next year, when there's going to be a lot of people that leave that defensive line and get drafted.
So, yeah, it's probably the best defensive line in the country, certainly one of the top 3 to 5. Brandon Zimmerman from the ozone.net. Please join him there for all Ohio State breakdowns across the board as we get you set for 2017. We're just a few weeks away from Big Ten Media Days, and then, of course, August camp starting up right after that. Our full conversations are on the Ohio State channel on YouTube, Mark Rogers TV Ohio State, and catch the individual segments on Mark Rogers TV. The audio, iTunes, Podbean, just search Mark Rogers TV, and you can catch us there. All right, Brandon, we've got a lot of work to do here the next few weeks with linebackers and going to break down the offense, but we'll let everybody know that if they've missed us previously, that they get a full library to go back and check out, go all the way back to spring camp, and none of that stuff's dated, and just sort through it and go through it and get yourself set for Ohio State football. All right, Brandon, I appreciate it. See you next week.
All right, thank you, Mark. All right, bye.